Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and in today's video I wanted to talk about extending the life of your ostomy bag because boy is it frustrating when it feels like all you're focusing on is getting your bag to stick. This is not a exact routine, here are the exact products that are gonna work for everybody video. This is a let's talk about the factors that can impact the ability of an ostomy flange to stick to you. This is going to look a little bit different for everybody because we all have different lifestyles, we all have different routines, and we all have different stomas. I'm going to be sharing from my own personal experience of living with an ostomy for over 15 years, but I'm also going to share some experience from caring for stomas, whether it be somebody that was my patient in the hospital or a friend that I was helping out. Your best bet, your absolute best bet though for individualized care is seeing a wound ostomy continence nurse, a WOCN or a stoma nurse, however you refer to it wherever you live. This is your best way of really having your stoma evaluated and all of the different factors that we'll talk about in this video really looked at closely. I know that not everybody has a WOCN or a stoma nurse, so if you are living in the US, I'm going to provide a couple of resources in the description below, including where to find an ostomy nurse, where to find a wound clinic near you, and where to find a virtual clinic. So I'll provide those in the description below, like I said, but let's talk about some of these factors and how they can impact how your ostomy bag sticks to you. The first thing that really impacts the ability of an ostomy flange to adhere well to skin is the stoma shape and size. It's really surprising that stomas come in all different shapes and sizes. They are all not just, protruding like mine is. I got very fortunate. This is something that if you are facing ostomy surgery, you don't yet have one, talk to your surgeon and ask their experience of making a stoma, because not all surgeons are created equal. They don't all have experience creating stomas. I got very fortunate with a general surgeon who just made a beautiful stoma that worked out well, and it protrudes between 1 inch and 2 inches out of my belly, and that generally, this is not a blanket statement, but generally that's considered a really good stoma. That's like optimal for getting a bag to stick. That being said, I have seen stomas that are nearly identical to mine in how they look, and those people needing revisions because they have so much trouble getting their ostomy bag to stick. I mean, getting an ostomy bag to stick, it's a quality of life issue. If you are sitting in the bathroom all day because your bag is not sticking, there is a real issue there and it really needs to be attended to. So I have seen people get revisions for stomas that you would think would work great, but they just don't. So anyways, there are all different shapes and sizes when it comes to stomas, and I know that many of you guys deal with flush or even retracted stomas. That just means that the stoma sits either at or below skin level, which is really frustrating. You might not even be able to see your stoma. I have seen cases where that is happening, and I can't imagine how frustrating it would be. This really plays into what products are being chosen for that kind of stoma. I've also seen people with severely retracted stomas need revision surgery, either because it's just really horrible to change and you're having a lot of difficulty with leaks, or because it's retracted so far inward that it might cause a little bit of an obstruction, meaning that the stoma can't have the output that it needs to have into the bag. But when it comes to stomas like this, the idea is you want to have a product that pushes a little bit of pressure around the stoma. So that skin around the stoma, you want pressure placed on it. It's supposed to help pop the stoma out. Does it always work? No, but that's the idea. Things you want to look for if you have a stoma like that are convex products. They make flanges that have a little bit more of a puffier area. It kind of sticks out a little bit further right around the stoma, and that helps to place that extra pressure right around the stoma. You can look for different pastes, different like strip paste or strip barriers, things like barrier rings like this. They can also help place a little bit of pressure right around that stoma, just trying to help not just pop the stoma out, but also prevent output from leaking under. When you have a protruding stoma like mine, it spouts downward into the bag, which is really convenient because then, my output tends to go into the bag rather than sitting up by the stoma. That's why these retracted or flush stomas are so annoying because the output just kind of sits up there and it can leak under that flange really easy. When you have a little bit more pressure, it makes it a little bit more difficult for that to happen. You may have seen that I use a ring around my stoma. Now I use a slim ring. You can see here that this is a slim ring, if my camera will focus. There we go. An Eakins cohesive slim ring. You may notice that I have a little bit of darkening around my stoma from this ring placing pressure around the stoma. And that's something that I keep a close eye on, because too much pressure can also be a bad thing. When you use any sort of extra pressure or convex products, it's really important to talk to your nurse about it, because not only can it cause potentially a pressure injury on that skin, it can cause some separation between your stoma and the skin. There are some issues that can pop up. So it's all about this balancing act, but it's definitely something you want to think about. Now on the other spectrum, there are prolapse stomas, and I have seen a variety of degrees, or varying of degrees when it comes to prolapses. You know, I've seen minor prolapses. Right now I feel like I'm experiencing just a small little bit of prolapse as my pregnancy has grown, my baby has grown, and placed a little bit more pressure behind my stoma. But I've also seen prolapses where the intestine fills the ostomy bag, and that sounds scary. It really does. This was with somebody that we knew had prolapsing issues. There had been multiple revisions, and due to the underlying illness, there was no getting that stoma to stay in place. The problem with this is when the intestine fills the bag, where's room for output? There isn't. So that would also cause leaks, and that was really frustrating. If a prolapse is something that you're experiencing for the first time, treat it as an emergency. Get in contact with your doctor. You may go to the ER just to make sure that everything is okay. Some people do experience prolapses every now and then. It can happen when there's extra pressure on the stomach. I always get worried when I sneeze. I'm like, am I gonna pop my stoma out? So I always naturally just hold my stoma when I sneeze or when I cough really hard. So if it's something that you've experienced before, usually your care team will come up with a plan for how you can manually retract the stoma. That might mean pushing it in. I've done that for patients before. If you have never experienced a prolapse before, that might sound a little weird. But yes, manually seeing intestine being pushed back into the belly, it's whew. But there are other ways, like cold water sometimes they'll use, sometimes sugar they'll pour on the stoma, and that'll help it retract. Intestines are weird, but the thing is, whether or not you have an ostomy, we all have intestines, so we all have it inside of us. It's just some of us can see ours on the outside. Now we also have protruding stomas, the ones that are like mine, you know, they stick out just enough to spout into the ostomy bag and drain properly. But sometimes these stomas still experience a lot of leaks. There are so many different factors that can contribute to why your ostomy bag is not sticking well or sticking long enough. So let's talk about those. The stoma location is also a huge factor, and it's something that if your surgery is planned well in advance and you see an ostomy nurse ahead of time who sites your stoma, they actually pick out where your stoma is going to be. They look at this. They want to see where's the best location on this person's abdomen to place a stoma, where it won't interfere with things, it won't interfere with clothing, it won't be in like the crook of skin folds, it'll be in the flattest areas possible. So they really take a good look at your skin at the location to ensure it's in a good spot. They want to look to see how you move. They might have you sit, they might have you lie back down, they might have you move all around just to see where your skin folds appear, because having a stoma that sits right in the folds of skin, whew, that is a pain to get anything to stick to. Something to think about is your weight. This is what I had a lot of trouble early on with when I first got my ostomy surgery. I was very underweight. I am now double the weight, actually more than double the weight that I was when I had my ostomy done. And my stoma, while it is in a good location, it was sitting in the flattest part of my skin. It was still sort of near the crook of my hip. So my hip sort of had a little concave over it, and that's where my stoma was. So after ostomy surgery, I dealt with leaks pretty much every day, multiple times a day. I went to school every single day, came home with a leaking bag, and it was miserable. I mean, that was awful, and I thought that was the norm. It was not. It was simply because I didn't know about all of the accessory products available, so we didn't know that we could kind of manipulate things and use things differently than how they're advertised to get my ostomy bag to stick. We could have done something like a barrier ring, ripped it apart, built up that area where my hip kind of concaved in, and that would have helped flatten the skin out a bit even as I moved around. That could have potentially helped with the leaks I was experiencing. But what really helped was gaining weight, which the ostomy did allow me to do. Despite the Crohn's disease that I was, dealing with. Now on the other side of it, excess abdominal fat can actually cause some issues as well. Now I am not a colorectal surgeon, I'm not making stomas, but this is just my understanding of it, is that when you have thicker tissue that the stoma has to go through, sometimes it can cause issues with retraction. Your stoma can actually be sucked in a little bit, and so this can cause issues. I've actually had patients of my own that were required to lose weight prior to their ostomy surgery, so that way the stoma had a better chance of being successful. Unfortunately, it's just one of those annoying things. I don't know why it sucks in like that. You could definitely ask a WOCN or your surgeon more about that, but that can be an issue for some people. Really what you want is your stoma to be sitting in the middle of the flattest area of skin on your abdomen. And sometimes after surgery, there are complications that can impede that. Maybe you did have flat skin and after surgery you developed a hernia. And that's really annoying because you thought things were going to be great, and unfortunately ostomy surgery, or really any abdominal surgery, puts you at higher risk for hernia development, which is just some of that intestine kind of coming outside, potentially right around your stoma. And that might make it a little bit lumpy right where your stoma is, and that can make it difficult for a flat flange to stick to. So there are some solutions. There's actually, Coloplast makes a version of a concave sort of flange that sits over a rounded belly. That's the only one that I think I know of that really attends to that issue. But it's definitely something, if you have a hernia that's really large, you might want to talk to your surgeon about. There might be a reason to go back in for surgery and have that fixed. Sometimes they don't fix them though. If you're doing well and the hernia is really not impacting your life too much or impacting your health, they might not want to operate again because, anytime you go in for surgery, that can pose its own risks. So really, when it comes down to it, it's important to remember that anytime your body goes through any sort of physical change, that it might impede your routine. You might be doing great with your ostomy. Maybe you gain weight, maybe you lose weight, maybe you develop a hernia. So many different factors that can change the needs of your ostomy. Also, the type of stoma is really important. I would say that generally ileostomies, where the colon's not involved anymore, they tend to be a little bit more annoying. They tend to leak a little bit more, maybe need more frequent changes. Colostomies tend to have slower output because the colon does a really good job at reabsorbing fluid from the intestines, so that way stool that comes out is more thick. When you have thinner stool, that tends to corrode things a little bit easier, meaning it can break down your flange a little bit easier and leak. And just more liquidy output generally tends to get under the flange a little bit easier anyway. But that's not to say that people with colostomies don't have issues as well. Sometimes they deal with pancaking. Pancaking is just when the stool gets stuck up by the stoma rather than dropping to the bottom of the bag. So there are some solutions for either side of the problem. If you're somebody that's dealing with that pancaking issue, there are lubricants that you can put in the bag that help output slip to the bottom. I think the #1 lubricant that I have tried is a product that I tried recently, and I have tried a number of lubricants, but the Revel Ostomy lubricant, that one, if you deal with pancaking, go for that one. That is the slipperiest stuff I've ever tried, and I've tried ones from Convatec and Coloplast and Hollister. I don't have a ton of issues with pancaking because my output is more on the looser side because I have an ileostomy, but holy cow, I mean, that stuff is slippery. If you deal with the other side of the problem though, where your output is more watery, I have used different gelling products to help thicken the output. That way it's not this little, like, maybe too visual, but your output's not sloshing around in your bag, potentially splashing up or going up towards your stoma and leaking under the flange. I've also seen where people will actually use either medication or they'll change their diet a bit if their output is too acidic. I have seen people complain about, you know, it seems like their output's really erosive, more so than usual. Maybe their diet's had a little bit too much acidity in it, I'm not sure, but I have seen people go on different medications, obviously per their doctor, to help moderate the acidity of their output, as well as just, you know, manage with food. Another thing that can impact the ability of the ostomy to stick is your activity. And I always like to say, you know, you can do just about anything that you could before ostomy surgery. There are limitations, everybody's a little bit different, but it can impact how your ostomy sticks. It absolutely can. And that can be really frustrating. From how you move to the different activities you do, this can make your bag peel up or unstick to you. I mean, I even notice when I bend over to tie my shoe or I give myself a pedicure or something where I'm folding my knees up to my chest, I can sometimes feel my bag lifting off of my skin. Now, thankfully, I'm just doing that temporarily, right? So when I put my legs back down, I kind of press my bag back to myself. But I had a patient who was super active. It was a kid and they were super active, and they often would sit or lie down with their knees to their chest. That was their positioning. I think that this kid would have been bouncing off the walls if we let them. They were very active, but this made it so difficult to get an ostomy bag to stick to them because how they folded their legs up created a little bit of a fold in their belly right where the stoma was. And oh my gosh, we'd get a leak in the same spot multiple times a day. So we did have to manage that with different products, like, you know, breaking up some barrier paste, some strip paste, or taking a barrier ring like this and kind of breaking it up and filling in the areas that basically created a divot. We also used an ostomy belt and made sure that it was in that skin fold, so it really held the bag tight to the skin. So when I say, you know, you can do just about anything you did before surgery after, there are limitations to that. Like, I am certainly not sitting with my knees to my chest all the time because I know that that would create issues with my stoma, as it does for many people. There are also things that you can be involved in that can really impact your wear time. A lot of people say, you know, water is not supposed to impact the ability of the ostomy to stick. I have had times where I've had zero issues, you know, no problem. I can do whatever I want, swim, bathe, shower, whatever. No issue. And then I've had times where water absolutely caused issues with my ostomy bag sticking. Originally, when I got my ostomy, you know, I had no issues with moisture. I was able to swim and do all the things, and it didn't seem like it would unstick my bag at all. And then about 10 years into having an ostomy, I know, 10 years, all of a sudden I started having issues with moisture. And really what happened was I was using a Coloplast product, and I guess I had a sensitivity to the adhesive or something in that flange, and it was exacerbated by moisture. If I showered without covering my ostomy bag, if I even sweat a little bit, if I went swimming, there was a point where I couldn't go swimming without having a ton of issues and a ton of just raw, damaged skin. So it did take some temporary lifestyle changes where I had to either avoid moisture as much as possible or immediately change my bag if my bag had been exposed to any water. And also a change of products, which was really frustrating after having a lot of success with that bag. I have found that overall, the less moisture that I have on my peristomal skin, my ostomy bag, the better chance I have at that ostomy bag sticking to me, especially for an extended period of time. And because we're talking about this particular subject of moisture, I want to thank today's sponsor, StomaCloak. I've talked about them before, but StomaCloak offers these really awesome ostomy covers that don't just cover up your ostomy bag. Maybe you've got a clear bag and you want to have a little bit more discreetness. It's great for that, but it really has some awesome functions to it as well. The StomaCloak is easy to place over your ostomy bag. I just stick my hand through the bottom, bring it out the top where, you know, your stoma and your flange go through, and I pull the bottom of my bag through it, and on it goes. It's customizable in both the ring size here as well as the length. And what I find about this fabric that is really awesome, number one, it eliminates odor. I've had issues where if I wear my bag just a little bit too long, sometimes it gets a little bit of an odor. If I throw on a stoma cloak, it's gone within an hour. I mean, I can put this on and take it off and the odor is eliminated. So that was like, I thought that was awesome. It has also helped me with leaks. Thankfully, I don't have a ton of leaks at this point from under my flange. I know we're talking about extending the life of our ostomy bag and getting it to stick. You know where I have issues leaking? I've had it where my two-piece leaks right around this area, like where the bag connects to the flange. I've also had, I had this recently overnight, it was so irritating. It was like somebody stuck a pin in the plastic of the front of my ostomy bag, and it was the middle of the night and I didn't want to change, so I threw on one of these and it protected me. So it helps with things like that, but most importantly, moisture. Especially when right now I'm wearing a lot of high-waisted stuff over my growing belly, my giant belly. And that doesn't provide a lot of airflow to my ostomy bag. So after I shower or I take a bath, I just have the wet fabric from my ostomy bag sitting on my skin. I mean, even when I towel dry it, it doesn't quite fully dry. So what I've been doing is throwing on a stoma cloak, and that helps protect my skin from the moisture. It wicks the moisture off of my ostomy bag. So I take this off and my ostomy bag is dry. And I'll show you an exact example of this because I just got an ultrasound. I did a 3D, 4D ultrasound recently, and because of that, they had some trouble seeing baby girl. They had me moving my ostomy bag every which way. The ultrasound gel got everywhere, and I knew that we were going to be doing stuff afterwards. I didn't want that sitting on my skin. So what I did was I wore my stoma cloak, and I promise this is not output. It might look a little gross. It's just dried ultrasound gel. You can see exactly where it protected me. There's a little bit on the front here, I think over on here. But yeah, especially underneath, if I hadn't been wearing this guy, that gel would have been sitting on my skin. You know, you can wipe it all you want, but if you have a fabric border and a fabric covered bag, it's really hard to get it completely dry. So this guy protected me. Well, this one did. And I was able to take it off afterwards when it was all icky. Clearly it needs to be washed. And that's the other benefit. You can just throw this right into your washer, right into your dryer on hot, and you're good to go. You don't have to do any special dry cleaning for this. Anyways, with all these abilities, I have found that it has extended the life of my bag because I'm not having to change it because of odor. I'm not having to change it because it's peeling up more from moisture sitting on the skin. You know, it has extended the life of my ostomy bag. So if it's something you're interested in, I will provide details below in the description for Stoma Cloak. They're also offering a little bit of a sale right now, so I'll provide the coupon code for that, and that is good until March 17th. So if you're interested, make sure to jump on that. Just another way that we can extend the life of our bags. But let's get into another factor that really impacts your ability of adhering an ostomy bag to you, and that is your peristomal skin condition. This might be the most important. When you have any sort of skin breakdown or wound, especially around your ostomy, moisture is involved. I mean, with any healing wound, moisture is usually involved. The wound might weep a little, and that's important. You know, you want the wound bed to be a little bit damp because that helps the epithelial cells regrow, but you don't want it to be too wet. And so that's why I always think of our flanges here, which are most often made out of hydrocolloid. I think of that hydrocolloid as, I say that so funny, it always feels awkward coming out of my mouth, hydrocolloid. I think of that as a wound care product because not only does it pull some of that fluid from the wound bed so it's not too damp, but it also maintains a level of moisture because you do need some moisture for skin to heal. As you may realize, you know, too much moisture can definitely impede adhesive, not just medical adhesive, but anywhere in life. You don't stick a sticker to a wet surface. You just don't do that. So a lot of the times our ostomy flanges are actually a really great way to heal our skin. It's why they're made out of the material that they're made out of. But if I notice some minor skin irritation, I can usually get away with a little bit of stoma powder, you know, the smallest amount possible just to help dry that area. and then sealing it in with skin barrier. But here's the thing, this doesn't work for everybody, and not every skin condition around the stoma is going to be healed by stoma powder and skin barrier. In fact, there are so many different complications that can happen with peristomal skin that require further help. And that's why this is a story of don't do what I did. Get yourself a wound ostomy continence nurse, get yourself a stoma nurse before there is a problem. Don't wait until there is an issue and then, you know, you're struggling to find one, you're struggling to get an appointment on time. Have one ahead of the game before you start having problems, because if you have a stoma long term, there is likely going to be a time in your life with your stoma that something funky pops up. You might be doing well for years like I did. I was doing well for a decade and then suddenly had terrible skin problems and I needed help. And it took me a while to see a WOCN. So get ahead of the game, get yourself a nurse that can help you with these issues, because they might be able to recommend unique products. They might even be able to give you samples in office. They might need to prescribe something to you that helps you with your skin issue. But peristomal skin damage, when that skin is just not intact and it's weeping, that makes it so difficult for anything to stick to it. And then when your ostomy doesn't stick to it, you're more likely to have a leak, which then further can break your skin down. It is a vicious cycle. Get ahead of the cycle, get yourself a nurse. As you can probably tell at this point, products play a huge role in your ability to combat so many of the factors that can cause issues with your bag sticking to you. And I wish I knew this from the get-go. I wish my dad knew this from the get-go, that the ostomy bag that you leave the hospital in does not have to be the ostomy bag that you live in forever. You can change your ostomy products whenever you want. You know, you don't have to be stuck to one thing and go with it. And what I think is just the best advice I can give anybody is to order samples. And I always love to mention this when I say order samples. Vegan Ostomy is another YouTuber here on YouTube. They're not active on YouTube anymore, but they do keep their content really up to date, and he has a fantastic website. One of the articles that he has on there is a full list of manufacturers that provide free samples, and he keeps it up to date because he puts the date on there of when he last updated it, and it's always fairly recent. So it is a great resource with a ton of manufacturers that you can order free samples from. Some are just an online form, some require to talk to you on the phone, but that is a great way to try so many different things. And sometimes it's like Christmas morning because they send you a lot of stuff. Also, talking to the manufacturer of the different ostomy products. Some of those manufacturers, for example, are Convatec, Coloplast, Hollister, New Hope, Salts, I think Symed, Marlin, what else? There are so many. There's a lot of different companies that make ostomy bags. Talking to them though, they're going to best be able to guide you with how to properly use their products, because they're the ones that have gone through endless studies with them, trying out all different things with them, all different routines. So I highly recommend doing that. That was one of the things that saved me early on. I think it was Convatec. We called the manufacturer and they helped guide us with products. There are so many things available out there for ostomies that it can be hard to comprehend. When you're in the hospital, they're limited in what they can offer you. Like, I have even noticed, on my floor, we never carried proper ostomy adhesive remover, and I wish that we did, because I think that's essential. When you get a brand new stoma, that skin is raw, it's getting used to having adhesive being peeled from it multiple times. A spray adhesive remover could have made just a world of difference for not just myself, but so many patients I cared for. And you can't just use the adhesive remover that's often provided in hospitals, because it leaves that oily residue and then nothing sticks to you. So the ostomy specific ones, that's one of the things that I really go towards when it comes to products that help me extend the life of my bag. You know, not only does it keep me from damaging my skin further, because I'm not ripping adhesive off of my skin and peeling off layers of skin, but it also helps me thoroughly clean the peristomal skin. You don't want any gunk. You don't want nothing around that stoma, no leftovers from the previous bag. You want a fresh start. I also tend to go towards extended wear flanges. This is not the one that I wear currently. I wear Convatec. This is a Hollister. But I tend to lean towards the extended wear because they're better for people with looser output, people with ileostomies. I also like to use skin barrier because I find it makes my skin just a little bit more tacky. Some people say, I don't use skin barrier at all, and that's what works for them. So you're going to find that there's different routines between people that, you know, work for some and do not work at all for others. And I think it's awesome to take recommendations, try things out that maybe others have tried and have worked for them, but don't be discouraged if it doesn't work for you because we are all so different. You know, our skin tolerates different things. Our bodies are physically different. Our stomas are so different from each other. And even our stomas can change over time. You know, now that I'm pregnant, my stoma has grown in size, like doubled in size. So it's so important to remember that your ostomy routine, even if you have it down pat and it's doing beautifully, there could be something that changes in your life with your body that you might have to adjust things for. I really wanted to share this video though and talk about this subject because I know there are patients out there that really struggle, that just have not found relief with their routine yet, even if it's been a long time and they've had their stoma for a while. I feel very fortunate. You know, I was given a beautiful stoma, and I think just because of the background of how I got it, I was fairly young, I was so sick beforehand, and the ostomy did provide me a lot of relief. I think that really did help me adjust well to ostomy life, but everybody is going to tolerate different things at different levels, and not everyone is going to have an easy time with their ostomy. It's just unfortunately the case. And I hate to, you know, I want to validate that because there are a lot of people that struggle and just do not find that it gets easier over time. But there are also people that are pre-surgery and scared and they're hoping that everything works out beautifully. So, you know, if we can give and talk about the resources available to give you the best shot of having a good experience with your stoma, I think that's the best that we can do, right? So hopefully this video gave you some ideas to think about if you're really struggling to get that bag to stick, because I have been there. I have been there early on after surgery, and I've been there 10 years into having my stoma. Somebody knock on wood, we're doing good now. We are doing good now, but you know, it's something I do keep in the back of my mind that a physical change could happen. We could have difficulties in the future, and let's just be as prepared as possible for those changes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do hope that it was helpful for you. And don't forget, if you're interested in Stoma Cloak, the beautiful ostomy cover, you can check them out at stomacloak.com, and I'll have information on the coupon code in the description below. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are looking for a way to help support my channel, consider liking this video or even subscribing. You can also check out my store at LetsTalkIBD.shop. I have stickers and hoodies like these guys over here, just related to chronic illness and inflammatory bowel disease, something fun. And I also have a coupon code for my YouTube watchers. You could also become a member of my channel, like the wonderful people scrolling on screen here. They've become a member and they have access to videos a little bit earlier. It's a great way to support my channel, and really, just watching my videos means the world. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.